Hello, and thanks for joining us on Encore. Coming up on today's music show, Alicia Keys in the here and now. The singer's 6th studio album is a personal account of home and family. A pop party fit for an oligarch. Robbie Williams is back, taking inspiration from the Russians for his new single. And South African soprano Pretty Yende has wowed opera critics here in Paris with her interpretation of Donizetti's diva, Lucia di Lammermoor. She's in the studio to tell us more. Pretty Yende, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
I'm also joined by our music critic Mark Thompson, who'll be going through some of the music news in just a minute. But Pretty, let's talk about your latest role here in Paris at the Opera Bastille. You're appearing as Lucia in Lucia di Lammermoor. That's Donizetti's opera based on the Sir Walter Scott novel. Let's take a look first at your performance. Now, Lucia is one of the great opera divas. She's been played in the past by Maria Callas, more recently Nathalie Dessay. What did you want to bring to this character?
I really wanted to try and start from the most simplest and purest part of the human being. She's just a little girl. And in her mind, in her world, everything is perfect. You know, she lives in a world where she cannot exercise her right of choice. And the difference between me and her is that I'm living in a time where I was able to make a choice to each and everything that I wanted in life, which actually made the Lucia di Lammermoor a dream come true for me. And so I really wanted to try it from the simplest part of a human being, a child who is growing up in a family that she was always adored. Everything was perfect, birthdays and everything. And then suddenly she's told, you're not actually in a perfect world. And so the only escape that she could find was in her mind, you know.
And you, away from the stage, you released your debut album in September. What was it like recording in a studio compared to as we saw on stage?
A completely different artist, and I'm so glad that I waited so much so that I can have a chance to have as much richness that I'm able to have on a live performance, so that when a person is listening to me live or on the recording, they can at least get the exact same artist. Really one of the most challenging things, and I was so happy to be able to do it.
How did you go about deciding what songs you wanted to put on the record? You said it was a journey. That's the name of the album as well.
It was a perfect route, because when you look at how my journey has been so far, it has been like a fairy tale, you know. And so even winning the time of having to wait allowed me a clear path on where I wanted to, start my first step as a recording artist. And obviously, telling the story of how it all began, with the Lakme duet and the highlights of winning the most amazing competitions internationally, from Moscow to Vienna, and big debuts at the Metropolitan Opera House. And to be able to actually get the 7 tracks, it was the challenging thing, because so much has happened in the past 15 years.
Well, you certainly had plenty to choose from. Now, you grew up in South Africa in a Zulu-speaking family. How did you encounter opera, and what was it that appealed to you about the practice?
Now, when I look back, I think it's the power of the human voice, because I was just home watching TV one night, and there was this ad on TV, the British Airways advert, with the Lakme duet, behind. And for me, at the age of 16, I was like, what is that? Somehow my soul knew what it was, because somehow it felt like something that I can do. And of course, when I was told that it was humanly possible, because I could not believe that human beings could have such a sound and such power. And of course, we all know the power of sound, the power of voice as human beings. And I was touched by that. And to be able to share its power through the music that I get to sing, spreading love, making a world a better place in my way, I said, well, I jump in, and luckily, talent was there.
And you briefly mentioned performing at the Met Opera House. That came about pretty last minute, didn't it? You were replacing someone, found out a few weeks in advance, had to learn all the songs in French, and then it didn't quite go to plan? Is that
Because everybody builds the castle, but no one actually has the detail of whatever, each room will be. It was a dream come true to sing at the Met. But then if somebody had told me that, Pretty, before you even utter one sound, you'll be on your knees before, in front of 4,000 people, I would have said no to the challenge. But then, of course, those are the moments that are so human, that will make you realize that one is just human beings, and we can always dream and always make a perfect world, but the perfection is not in everything going by the way you wish it to go, or in a way that you can know that you can manage. But it's those moments that make you focus a little bit to realize the why and the reality of life, that life is simple, life changes each time, and we all just trying to find out the root and all this journey of life. And that was the beauty of it. And things that I learned about myself through the music and the journey itself was things that probably I would have never known had I not encountered music, that human beings are courageous, human beings are amazing, they love and they have joy, and they want to share goodness to one another. And this is what I've been learning, from this music.
And what about that experience? Did it give you some confidence? Because you were quite young. I mean, you must have been quite nervous.
I think that was one thing that had to be like a slap on the face, like, wake up. You are at the Metropolitan Opera House. You're the Countess. You're no more Pretty Yende, the girl who's feeling like a replacement. That was the problem, that in my head, I felt like I was not worthy, because people pay so much and well in advance for that specific artist. And then suddenly they get an African girl whom they've never heard before. And obviously the mind, I had uninvited guests in my mind. I say this, if emotions and thoughts were human beings, I would be careful who comes into my world. I would say, if fear is there, no fear, you're not allowed to be in this party. Only joy and courage and love are allowed in my space. And that's what happened, that I had to wake up. Instead of feeling so embarrassed, I really had a moment of realizing that this is my dream come true. This is what I've been wanting to do. Now be in the right party and invite the right guests.
Yeah, and you have to silence those fears, I can imagine. Now, we're moving to new releases. Pretty, you spend a lot of your time rehearsing and singing opera, but do you get time for contemporary music, pop music?
I listen to jazz mostly when I want to switch off. I mean, Ella Fitzgerald is one of my favorite singers. And a lot of gospel music as well. And so when I'm not working on a role or even want to start working, I have to not to listen to opera or classical music at all, so that I can switch off. Because sometimes we don't realize that unintentionally the mind keeps working. It never stops.
Indeed. Well, we're moving to one singer who's back on the scene after a short absence, actually. Alicia Keys. She's got a new record coming out, Mark. What can we expect?
Yeah, it's her first album in 4 years since Girl Is On Fire, which was a huge record. It won a Grammy for Best R&B album. She's back now with a very personal record about her home and her family life. Let's have a listen to Blended Family. Now, as I was saying, the album's very autobiographical. She touches on her family life, in particular her husband's marriage to before they eventually got married to another woman, and their family and their children, and the different relationships that they have to have, and what you do to, if you really love someone, the sort of sacrifices you have to make along the way.
Quite intimate content then.
Yeah, definitely. And she also talks about New York, growing up in New York, this music she used to listen to. She's an artist who's very approachable in a weird way for someone who's such a success. She talks about very real things, and she's a classically trained pianist and vocalist as well. So I think she actually has actual talent to fall back on, which really helps her content.
Yeah, that seems to always shine through in her music. Now we're moving to French releases. Pretty, you've sung in French in the past, a huge challenge. Do you listen to a lot of French music?
I do. I mean, one of the things that I enjoyed the most about the music in general was that French chansons, they are one of the most beautiful and elegant melodies. And then, of course, I grew up studying in La Scala at the La Scala Opera House in the Academy of La Scala. And so I was in Italian school. But then when I started singing in French, I was like, my voice says, yes, I want to sing in French. Je veux chanter en français aussi. And I could feel the elegance and the nuances that are so different to Italian and the vowels. I love singing in French too.
Okay, well, we're moving to a singer who perhaps is not of that style, something very, very different. Black M, he's one of France's biggest rap stars. He's back with a new record.
He is. He started off as a member of Section d'Assaut, but he really came to prominence the last couple of years with Sur ma route, which was a huge single. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing
Everyone
it for about
heard that
18
one,
months.
yeah.
Let's have a listen to the first track from this new album. It's called Cheveux Blancs.
J'ai rien vu passer, bloqué dans le passé. Je me sens menacé par le temps, cheveux blancs, j'ai rien vu passer. J'ai rien vu passer.
Well, this clip actually ends with a cameo from Vincent Cassel, who everyone will know from his character in La Haine. And it's really a show of how much pull Black M has now that he can get Vincent Cassel to reprise this character and also bring Shakira in to record on this album. I'm not too sure too many other French rappers would have been able to do the same thing.
No, sure to be a big success, that one. Okay, well, finally, we're ending with another big release this week. Robbie Williams is back with a new album called Heavy Entertainment Show. Mark, did it entertain you?
Going by this record, I don't think Robbie Williams is someone who's intending on growing old gracefully. This song sounds like something my dad would come up with if he went to a Russian wedding and he thought he was being very clever by just listing all the Russian things he knew and then just singing them. And it does sound like ludicrous. It might work better as some kind of dramatic reading, so I'm going to give it a go. Party like a Russian, end of discussion. Dance like you've got concussion. Oh, put a doll inside a doll. That is about as highbrow as that song gets.
Some poetry from Robbie Williams there. We'll leave you with a taste of Robbie's newfound love for all things Russian. Pretty Yende, thanks so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you. Great pleasure.
Just a reminder that Pretty is on stage at Lucia di Lammermoor at the Opera Bastille until mid-November. Remember to check out our website for more arts and culture news, and you can also follow Encore on social media. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
Disco seduction.